research. Obtaining knowledge, multiple methods on qualitative, but for quantitative scientific methods, there are some formulas that we will be using depending on the kind of research we are doing, depending on how we will gather our data. The purpose makes social intentions understandable for qualitative, and for quantitative, evaluates objective and examines cause and effect relationship. Okay, let's proceed to the last slide. So, data analysis technique. For qualitative, thematic caudal ways, competence-based. For quantitative, mathematically based methods. Style of expression. The qualitative is personal and lacks formality. As we mentioned earlier, it is descriptive. So, description. Subjective. But for quantitative, impersonal, scientific, or systematic. The researcher will focus only on the data gathered, on what is the result of the computation, statistics. Sampling technique. In qualitative, more inclined to purposive sampling or chosen samples of data. What is a purposive sampling? Can I hear, or do you have an idea already? Angeline? Again, sorry. Can I hear from Angeline? Is that right? Thank you. Can I hear from Angeline? Angeline, let me know. Ayan. Sige. Thank you. Okay. At least I know you're there. Thank you. Bri, can I hear from Bri? Bri? Sige, anyone? Do you have an idea what... Sige, it's okay, Bri. Do you have an idea what is purposive sampling? Have you discussed sampling techniques already? Ayan, selective, correct. May targeted participants. Okay, correct. Okay, so we will also discuss sampling technique. As you can see, for the quantitative, random sampling is the most preferred, but you can also use other sampling techniques that we have. So, still depending on the research that you will be doing. Okay, so, any questions on the difference of qualitative and quantitative? If there is a problem, you can use the chat box, please. So, any questions can I hear for on qualitative and quantitative research? None. Okay. So, how about the others? So, for our research, we will now be focusing on the quantitative research. Okay. So, for our quantitative research, so it's it's quite critical, though it's quite critical for us, the research questions that we will be formulating. Because, as we mentioned earlier, we will be planning everything first before we gather our data. So, before we gather our data, we are also prepared what would be the statistical methods that we will be using, how are we going to compute and get the results and conclusion of the data. So that is all part of our planning before we gather our data. So what kind of research questions kaya are we going um, to need for us to be able to come up or use a quantitative research? Can I get idea from Enrique? Since what kind of research questions? This is the research questions for the respondents. For example, you are already formulating a research questions. What do you think kind of research questions do you need to formulate to create a quantitative research, Enrique? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I heard one word that is very important here, in which progressive. Okay. So if the main difference in the different how we differentiated the two is usually for qualitative research, what's being used as way to gather data is through interviews, because we mentioned in qualitative distinct, special, or unique characteristics. So through interviews, there are unique answers as well from the respondents. But for the quantitative research, what has usually been used, ayan, that's correct, open-ended question on qualitative, Bray. But from for